putting them in dark corners of the web where they get worse, and then you don't actually solve the harassment problem.
Reddit's hardly a dark corner of the web, right? Reddit's
no, I'm not talking
huge.
but there are dark. But I decided to at one point because out of sight, out of mind. If they see my tweets less, they'll probably interact with me less. But they do this, and they lie about what I believe, they lie about what I stand for, and they're trying to destroy everything about me. And they do this to other people. I recognize that. So ultimately, I say, well, what can you do? It's going to happen on one of these platforms. The internet is a thing. As they say on the internet, welcome to the internet. So, to me, I see Twitter trying to enforce all these rules to maximize good, and all you end up doing is stripping people from the platform, putting them in dark corners of the web where they get worse, and then you don't actually solve the harassment problem.
Reddit's hardly a dark corner of the web, right? Reddit's
no, I'm not talking
huge.
But there are dark corners of Reddit. There are alternatives. I mean, the internet isn't going to go away, and people have found alternatives. And here's the other thing that's really disconcerting. We can see a trend among all of these different big Silicon Valley tech companies. And, they hold a similar view to you guys. They ban similar ideology, and they're creating a parallel society. You've got alternative social networks popping up that are taking the dregs of the mainstream and giving them a place to flourish, grow, make money. Now we're seeing people be banned from MasterCard, banned from PayPal, even banned from Chase Bank, because they all hold the same similar ideology to you. Oh, it's in some capacities, I don't know exactly why Chase does it. I assume it's because you'll get some activists who will lie.
Explain what you're talking about.
So there have been a series of individuals banned from Chase Bank.
Their accounts have been?
Yes, their accounts were closed. I think maybe the most notable might be Martina Markota. I don't know much about her. I follow her on Twitter, and her tweets are typical conservative fare. And she created a comic, I think it's called Lady Alchemy. She's a Trump supporter, and she got a notice that her business account was terminated. You then have Joe Biggs, who previously worked with InfoWars. I don't know much about this. I didn't follow up. But he tweeted out, Chase has shuttered my account. And then you have the new chairman of the Proud Boys, Enrique, I forgot his last name, Tario or something. And so,
sounds really white.
Oh, no, he's Afro-Cuban.
I know, that's what's hilarious.
So what I see across the board, it's not just, and this is what I wanted to bring up before about a perspective on these things. You guys are like, we're going to do this one thing. And no snowflake blames itself for the avalanche. But now what do we have? We have conservatives being stripped from PayPal. We have certain, I'll just say individuals stripped from PayPal, Patreon, financing, so they set up alternatives. Now we're seeing people who have, like, you mentioned Westboro Baptist Church, and she's been de-radicalized by being on the platform. But now we have people who are being radicalized by being pushed into the dark corners, and they're building, and they're growing. And they're growing because there's this idea that you can control this, and you can't. I think you mentioned earlier that there are studies showing, and also counter studies, but people exposed to each other is better. I found something really interesting, and because I have whether or not people want to believe this, all of my friends are on the left, and some of them are even like socialists, and they're absolutely terrified to talk because they know they'll get attacked by the people who call for censorship and try to get them fired. And when I talked to them, I was talking to a friend of mine in LA, and she said, "Is there a reason to vote for Trump?" And I explained a very simple thing about Trump supporters. This was back in 2016. I said, oh, well, you've got a lot of people who are concerned about the free trade agreements, sending jobs overseas. So they don't know much about Trump, but they're going to vote for him because he supported that. And so did Bernie. And then the response is, really? I didn't know that. And so you have this ever-expanding narrative that Trump supporters are, Nazis, and the MAGA head is the KKK hood. And a lot of this rhetoric, emerges on Twitter. But when a lot of these people start getting excised, then you can't actually meet these people and see that they're actually people. And they may be mean. They may be mean people. They may be awful people, but they're still people. And even if they have bad opinions, sometimes you actually, I think in most instances, you find the regular people.
Well, there's a part of the problem of calling for censorship and banning people in that it is sometimes effective, and that people don't want to be thought of